and I would never have invited you to visit me. I would be ashamed if you saw who I lived with. But one day, I decided that this had to stop. Here's what happened. That day, my new boyfriend Brady brought me home and asked if he could come in. I lied and told him that I had a lot of homework, so maybe some other time. But he said that he only wanted a glass of water because it was unbearably hot outside. I had to take him to the kitchen and give him a drink. I couldn't wait for him to finish drinking so I could quickly get him out the door before he saw. At that moment, there was a loud noise coming from the living room. It was as if something heavy had fallen to the floor, like a bag of plaster. Then, while breathing heavily, someone began slowly dragging this bag on the floor towards the kitchen. The sound was approaching. Brady looked at me nervously, then towards the approaching noise. Finally, the source of this strange sound appeared in the doorway. Meet my brother, Chuck. That's why I didn't want you to come in. He ate my last boyfriend. What the... is this person? It was a stupid joke, of course. I really liked Brady and I didn't want to push him away. And Chuck's appearance always scared everyone. He was just incredibly fat, and for the last few months, he couldn't even walk because he was so heavy. He either crawled or lied around. He had crawled to the kitchen on all fours and, embarrassed by Brady, froze in the doorway. He was only 8 years old, but he weighed nearly 300 pounds. Brady left with his mouth wide open in amazement and didn't even say goodbye. My brother, of course, is not to blame for anything. Since childhood, he has had a metabolic disorder. Until about 2 years old, Chuck seemed like an ordinary child, just a little bit bigger than other babies. But then Mom and Dad began arguing often, and it became simply unbearable at home, and they separated. Maybe my parents' divorce had nothing to do with it, but it just so happened that after that, our problems began. Mom didn't have time to monitor our diet. She was either working all the time or was deep in thought. I, too, wasn't up to the task of taking care of my brother. I was still a child myself. This is when Chuck began eating a lot of fatty and unhealthy food and started gaining weight rapidly. A year later, when he was 3, our mother couldn't even pick him up. At 4 years old, he became heavier than me, even though I'm 9 years older than him. Although Chuck weighed even more than some adults, he was, first and foremost, still a child. Huge, heavy, awkward, and mischievous. It was one hell of a mixture. It was actually really dangerous at home. I'm still amazed that our cat managed to survive. I was always afraid that Chuck would crush him in his arms or just sit on him by accident. He was like an elephant in a china shop. He always broke, crushed, or ate everything. When I turned 14 and my birthday cake was waiting for me in the kitchen, Chuck inhaled it in a few minutes. We found him covered in frosting just when I was coming to blow out the candles. All he did was irritate me, and maybe that's why I'm so ashamed now that my mother and I didn't take good care of him. Yes, we hid sweets from him and tried to control his appetite, but it didn't help. When he said that he was hungry, he needed to eat huge portions to feel full. We asked for help only when he began having trouble walking. After that failed date with Brady, I started taking his weight loss seriously and carefully followed all of the recommendations from doctors. I only cooked healthy food for him, and when he started losing weight and was able to walk again, I walked and exercised with him every day. He is now 9 years old and weighs 210 pounds. Of course, there is still a lot of work ahead, but I think Chuck and I can handle this. That's all. Thanks for listening to my story.